We all need to wear them on Fridays.
Okay.
Do you want us to answer or do you want to sit right next to me?
Okay, let's get started and see if some more people trickle in, then that's wonderful. Hi, y'all, it's good to see you. I'm Miss Liza. This is the last of our summer reading program STEAM special events, so we're so glad you're here. And today, we have some folks from the Master Gardeners who are gonna talk to us about pollinator superheroes, which is really cool. And then they have some wonderful things for you to do. So we have Miss Bethany, we have Miss Linda, and their compadres from the Master Gardeners to help us out. So welcome to you.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Miss Liza, how are you all doing today?
Good.
Good. Everybody looks cheerful and happy. And you're glad to be in the air conditioning, right? Yeah, this is a good place to be. Well, we are from a group that's called the Master Gardeners. And the Master Gardeners are people who love gardening, obviously, right? We love to garden and we have gone to some special training, your mom too. Some special
training that she's really good at
A really, really good gardener. Yeah, well, we love to garden too. And we've gone to some special training, and our job as Master Gardeners, we belong to a group that's called Cooperative Extension. Every state in the whole country has cooperative extension, and our job is to take research that comes from universities and colleges, and ours are like Virginia Tech and Virginia State, and we translate that to home gardeners and people in the community who have gardening problems, gardening issues. We also have some people who help the commercial gardeners, and those are the ones that grow our food, corn and soybeans and things like that around here. But our job is to help people who have gardens at home. So we do programs like this to teach people about garden things, and we also have help desks at the farmers markets, and we have help desks if you're having trouble with your garden and you want some questions answered. We have some demonstration gardens where you can come and visit and see what we're growing. We have some vegetables out in Burgess at the Farm Museum out there. We have a shoreline garden in Reedville where there's beautiful plants and it shows how to keep the shoreline from going into the bay. So we do a lot of garden things, and we're really happy to come and talk to you a little bit today about gardening, and most particularly about some of the superheroes in our garden, which are the pollinators. And I have a feeling this group knows a good bit about pollinators, so we're maybe going to go through this pretty quickly. But I think they're superheroes because a lot of times people don't pick their favorite. When you pick your favorite animals, do you pick a bee or a bug or a spider? Maybe you do, so I know you like spiders, but not everybody does. So, yeah. So anyway, sometimes people don't think about them as superheroes, but they really are. So today we're going to talk just a little bit about what is pollination. It's a word we hear a lot, but we're going to look in depth and see what it is. Think about why it's important. We're going to meet his pollinator superheroes. We're going to meet their villains, and then we're going to think about how we can help. Okay, so what is pollination anyway? Who has an idea? Go ahead, you start.
So basically all the flowers produce something called pollen, and the bees and butterflies come and they turn it into honey.
Very good. Yes, they do. They produce something called pollen. What were you going to ask?
The flowers have pollen, and when the bees and butterflies go in it, some of it sticks to them and they don't get it, and it spreads to the other flowers that are running low on pollen.
That's good. Yeah, you guys do know a lot. I was absolutely right. Perfect. So, pollen. It's kind of like sand. It's little tiny grains. Usually you think of what color for pollen? Yellow. Probably. But you know what? It comes in different colors too. Different shapes and flowers and all different sizes. And it looks different depending on the flower. But let's look at these two. Both of those are pollen. There's some pollen on the right, and that's, what color is that?
Brown.
Well, the one on the left is brownish, orangish, and then the one on the right is
White.
white. Yeah, so sometimes it's white, sometimes it's brown, sometimes it's gray. What kind of color have you seen?
I've seen the brown flower.
The brown.
I'm pretty sure I've seen the whole flower before.
Yeah,
It used to grow, I'm pretty sure.
that looks to me like a lily. So maybe you did have some lilies. So let's take a look. Every flowering plant, they have pollen in there somehow. They usually have, you see the big thing sticking up in the middle, and it's called the stigma with the little green blobs on the top. There's sort of a taller little piece in the middle called the stigma. And then there's something called filaments and anthers around the outside edge, and those have the pollen on the top. And that piece is called the stamen. So there's a stigma and a stamen inside the flowers. Now the stamen is kind of like the boy parts, and the stigma is kind of like the girl part. So the flowers are boys and girls together. So they look different. Take a look at this picture I took in my garden. Can you find the stamen? Did you see it? Where do you see it? Lucia? I might have thrown you off because my first question on there is the stigma. So see if you can find the lady stigma. That's the big part.
I'm pretty sure it was the green part.
Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah. And while you're up there, can you find the stamen with the pollen on it? You see anything that looks like it has pollen on it? This looks even different than the other kind. Oh, good jump. You got it. Yeah. Okay, very good. You're perfect. How about this one? Does anybody know what kind of flower this is? Ooh, threw you off with that one. This is cool. I put the name up there. Got it? Tell us. No. It says the name. Tulip, you got it. Okay. The tulip on the left is kind of what it looks like growing in the garden. The one on the right is to show you the inside. Who thinks they know where the stigma is, the lady part? What do you think it is? What color do you see? You want to? Sure. It's kind of high up there. You want to super jump too.
High?
Big jump and show.
It's high, you said?
Can you find? Yeah, that's the lady part up there, that yellow part. And while you're there, can you find some pollen? This is tricky. Yes. And there's some of that brown pollen we were talking about.
It looks like one that's like shaded really dark.
Yeah. And it has that really dark part in the middle. Excellent. You guys are very good. Okay, so now we're going to talk about why plants need pollinators. So every little plant's going to need pollen from another plant to come over to it and help it to make its seeds. If it doesn't get that, the pollen can't turn into seeds. So then the plant couldn't make any new seeds and can't make new plants, and then that's the end of the plant. And then that plant isn't going to be able to move by itself. So how is it going to get pollen from another plant if it can't move? So let's think of all the different ways you think that the pollen could get into that. See how lonely that is? There's no plants around it. How's the pollen going to get in there?
The bees, butterflies, and other pollinators
Perfect.
will fly onto the plant and some will get stuck to them and they'll fly onto the other plant and they will get stuck to them. That's how it's like pollen.
That's right. That's what you said before, and that's absolutely right. Any other ways? We got bees and other pollinators. Winds. Good one. All right. Great. Anything else? We got another idea?
Maybe, I haven't heard this though, but maybe like they can use special little tiny tweezers and
Sometimes people do that for plants. They do. Actually, they use little paintbrush because paintbrush will stick pollen onto it. We were just talking about maybe doing that for some blackberries that we have in our garden. So it's very good. I have a pretty long list on the next slide. Any other ideas? Let's see how many we got. Okay, wind right up there. Nobody thought about water, but if the rain splashes on the pollen, it could splash into a plant too. Animals sometimes spread the pollen around. Birds sometimes spread the pollen around, and so do the insects. So we did a really good job. So those are the ways that it moves. And now, who do you think are the very best pollinators? Who gets the prize? Bees. You're right. Yeah, and there's tons of kinds of bees, lots and lots. Miss Linda's going to tell you about some different bees in a little while, but honeybees and bumblebees, those are the ones we see a lot. Those are the kinds that live together. They're called social bees. They live in a hive or they live together. But then there's a lot of other little bees that live by themselves. They're called solitary bees, and all of them are super good pollinators. And then there's also some of these guys: beetles, wasps, flies, butterflies, moths, hummingbirds. small birds, bats, and even little animals like that guy in the bottom. Look at that little mouse. He's gonna get a lot of pollen on him. He's adorable. I had to put him on there because I thought he was adorable. Okay, so plants have superpowers too, not just the pollinators, but the plants. And what the plants do to get the pollinators to come to them is they have really bright colors, they have really special shapes, sometimes they have really nice perfume and strong scents, and then sometimes they have nectar guides, which I'm going to show you. There are ways that they kind of like give a map to the pollinators so they come and find their nectar. So nectar, we talked about that right at the beginning. It's like candy. It's sweet, it's sugary, and plants make it just for the pollinators. The only reason for it is to get some pollinators to come and visit them because it'll help them in the long run. That's a beautiful little hummingbird, isn't there? Its little beaks all the way down to the bottom to get the nectar where the nectar is. Have you ever seen this plant? Has anybody ever tasted any of this?
Yes.
You guys have tried that? Well, you should always ask your parents before you eat plants, because sometimes some of them are poisonous. But this is when my parents used to let us eat. And you can pull out the stamen and the stigma in that, and what do you find at the bottom?
Oh,
Oh, yes.
well, I was gonna ask, well, so basically, when I was in third grade, I had like a little learning site called Lexia, and I learned there about a type of mushroom that's called a death top that looks like a regular mushroom, but it's actually poisonous.
Absolutely.
And 90% of deaths from mushrooms come from there.
Is that right? Ooh, that's a pretty nasty mushroom, isn't it? Yeah, that's why you should always be very, very careful. This kind of plant, though, if you would eat some honeysuckle, it would be okay. But still ask your parents, make sure it's honeysuckle in case it's something else. But if you would pull it out, down at the bottom is a drop of, and it tastes just like sugar water. It's really sweet. And that's what they go for, so that's the nectar. And flowers also are really bright, lots of bright colors, and they also come in special shapes. And this particular flower has some nectar guides on it. You see that little circle around the very middle? See how pretty it is and how bright it is and all those little dots on it? It's attracting the bees and the pollinators to come in and see it. And if you see those black stripes, they aim right straight down to the middle. So those are called nectar guides, and they guide the pollinators right into the middle where they need to be. So here's some examples of bright colors, and you can see the stamens and the stigmas and all of these different plants. I really like this one. This one's in my yard. Look how high that one goes up to here. Can you see that little one? That little one on the top? And they have to have some way to get pollen in there, so they really need their pollinators. And how about that for a special shape? Lots of pollen, lots of anthers, lots of stigmas there. And here's another example of some nectar guides. Have you ever seen a flower that looks like that? Moms recognize that? It's a close up. It doesn't have a super doesn't. It's a close up of an iris, and all those little stripes bring the pollinators right straight into all that fuzzy pollen in that nectar. And then these shapes are special for butterflies because butterflies really love to have landing pads. They can come in and zoom in and land. They love to not be in the middle of the flower. So anything that's flat like that, the butterflies really love. I wanted to tell you about this flower because it's really cool. Have you ever seen a moonflower or heard of a moonflower? Well, it gets its name because, well, it's white. But when do you think it blooms?
At night.
Nighttime, when the moon is out. And you can see nectar guides on the moonflower, can't you? It looks like a star, kind of. And it only comes out at night and it smells beautiful. And the reason it comes out at night and sends out a beautiful scent, is that, oh, my little moth went away. I have a picture of a moth on here. It attracts moths. And moths usually come out at nighttime instead of butterflies. So the moths come out, they come to the moonflower, and then they pollinate it. Now, this is a really cool one, too. Have you ever seen a flower that looks like this in your yard or around here anywhere? There's a lot of them near where I live. I see a lot of these, and I have some. They're called the yucca plant. And they have a really super special partnership with this one particular kind of moth. This little yucca moth, the guy on the right, is the only one that pollinates the yucca plant. And what they do is, you can see it working on it, they make a little ball of pollen. You see that one on the right with the fuzzy little ball, that little green ball? That's a pollen ball that yucca moth has gathered together. Then she tucks it underneath her chin, and then she flies over to another yucca flower, like the one on the left, and then she makes sure that that ball of pollen goes right straight down the middle where it needs to go, and then she lays her eggs down at the bottom of the flower. And then when her eggs hatch and her larvae develop, they meet the yucca, and the yucca gets the benefit of the pollen from the yucca. Isn't that cool? Think about that. It's really special. We mentioned before about the fuzzies. You guys talked about the fuzzies. They really have a lot. These bees have really super, and they're very close up pictures of them. Superpowers are their hair, their eyes, and their mouth. Take a look at the eyes in the middle there. Are those not big eyes? If you had your head and your eyes were that big, they go from the top all the way to the bottom. And the one on the left has fuzzy hair with pollen stuck on it, and the one on the right shows you the really cool mask that they have. The fuzzy hairs collect pollen. You knew that because you told me that right off the bat. But look at that one on the left. He's super fuzzy. And they also have sharp jaws and long tongues. Look at the bottom bee. Check out how long that tongue is to get to the pollen.
I can't even tell it's a bee.
I know. I don't know how they could actually take that picture and get his tongue out like that, but that's amazing. Why do you think they need such sharp jaws and such long tongues? Did you have an idea? Were you just stretching? Go ahead.
Maybe the long tongue, since if the nectar's on the bottom, then it can get it.
Absolutely. Yeah, like hummingbirds, they go right to the bottom. They also need those strong jaws because they make their nests out of, they have to cut up wood, they have to cut up, sometimes they go right into wood and make a nest, sometimes they dig into the ground and make a nest, sometimes they hollow out stems of thick plants and make a nest, so they have to have pretty strong jaws to do that too. Okay, now here's your butterfly superpowers. Check out up at the top there. You see that curly thing coming out of the butterfly's mouth? Well, that's kind of like a tongue, kind of like a big straw. And that's what the butterfly uses to gather nectar. You can see on the bottom, that round thing. And then on the left, you can see he just flips it out like a straw, goes right down in there and gets the nectar. They're amazing. Now, these are back to some bee eyes. They are called compound eyes. And they also, in addition to these really big eyes, they've got these three little things on the top, and they sense light. So they have eyes, plus they have extra light sensors on top of their head. And those giant eyes can help them in the nighttime to see, they can help them to fly, and they can help them to get around. So they're pretty cool. I love the one on the right. They're so colorful, those eyes. This is what bee vision looks like. If you were a bee and you were looking at flowers, it would look like this one on the right-hand side. But if you're us, that's the bee, looking at the one, it just looks like a plain old yellow flower. But what do you see that the bee sees that we don't see? Yes?
The green around the middle part.
Yeah, that's some more of those nectar guides. What's cool is that bees can't see red, but they can see some colors that we can't see. They mainly see blues, they mainly see greens, and they also can see yellows. And they like the ultraviolet light. That's the kind of like glow in the dark. Did you ever have one of those flashlights, a glow in the dark ultraviolet flashlight? Well, they can see all of that. And they can see the special patterns that, if you look at us looking at the flower, we would never see that. And the same is true with butterflies. So this is what all the colors of the rainbow, and then there's some on the very far side that are called infrared, and some on the very right side that are called ultraviolet. We can't see the ultraviolet, but the bees can, but then they can't see the red on the other side. Now, butterflies have 17,000 mini eyes, so they have many, 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 many eyes. They can see way more colors than us, and they can see even extra light, and they can see water, like what we would see if we had polarized sunglasses on. The butterflies look like that all the time. And they are very, very good at detecting motion. So that's why they're so quick. If you try to catch them there, they fly right away. And they need good vision so that they can not only find nectar, but they also need it to find honey. So here's some more pictures of what it looks like. If you were looking at the flower at the top on the left, that's what a human would see. But if you look at the one that the butterfly sees, it's rainbow yellow and different colors. If you only saw ultraviolet light, that would be going on the bottom. But look at what that same flower looks like to the bee. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Here's another example. What we would see up at the top, ultraviolet only, then how the bee sees it down at the bottom, and then how the butterfly sees it at the bottom too. Now, sometimes the whole flowers are ultraviolet, so the butterflies and bees can see the whole thing. See how the pollen really stands out on that one?
But they look like they'd be part of the evil game.
They sure do. They sure do. Ooh, let's go on. Now, we see some patterns here too. Look at the ones on the left. This is the same flower on the right. But what do you see on the one on the right that's not even shown on the left? Yeah, look at that. That red doesn't even show up, but a butterfly would see that because they can see the red. And again, it points them right straight to the pollen. Sometimes it's just a glow in the dark nectar gland, so that you can see the one on the right, just the nectar's glowing. So the bees and butterflies can see that. And then sometimes it's the pollen itself, it's fluorescent, and they can just go straight in to the pollen. Okay, but you know what, pollinators are in trouble, you know that, don't you? Have you heard that? You've heard that some of them are getting extinct. Why should we care? Anybody see any fruit up there that they like? Anything that you like to eat up there? Yeah, all of it. Does everybody like all of them? No. What ones do you like the best? Strawberries and apples and peaches too. All of them need pollinators. And they say about 1 in every 3 bites of food that we eat, you have to thank the pollinator for. Here's some more fruits that need pollinators. You like any of them? Yeah, those are some of my favorites, especially in the summer. And how about bees? They all need pollinators too. Now you say, what, vanilla ice cream? That doesn't need a pollinator, it comes from milk. But it does need a pollinator because vanilla needs a pollinator. And to get chocolate sauce, chocolate needs a pollinator. And cocoa, yes. And they have a very tiny little fly called a midge that pollinates the chocolate. And without those, we wouldn't have any chocolate. So I'm glad for midges. They're very important. And also nuts, you know, there's little nuts. So if you looked at 100, or let's do it this way, these are all the pollinators in the world. About 40% of them are in decline or maybe at risk of being extinct. So we have to do something about that. You can see some examples of the different ones that are in decline. Why do you think, so let's do this first and then we'll guess. So who do you think some of the bad guys are?
I think some of the bad guys are the animals that eat them.
The animals that eat them? Oh, that's a good thought.
So some of the wasps, sometimes they don't like to pollinate, and sometimes they try to kill the bees. We've had wasps fight with bees at our house, and the bees fight each other, and the wasps fight each other, and it's just like, every time I see a wasp, I'm going inside.
It seems like mayhem there. Oh my goodness. Wildness, huh? Who else? What else is helping? What else is hurting the pollinators? Any other ideas? Probably the weather.
Sometimes birds can bite on the butterflies
They do.
and maybe us.
You know what? I think we're bigger culprits than the birds. Let's see. Here's one. Habitat loss. That's people doing that, isn't it? And you know, habitat is where animals live, so that's where their homes are. And what are we doing? Digging it up, making new houses for us. We're making parking lots, we're making shopping centers, and we're getting rid of a lot of the flowers that they like. Here's another one.
If there's no pollinators, then when you kill the pollinators, that's basically, we can't live without pollinators.
Yeah, all that food would be gone, and all we could eat is cereal.
Bleh.
Every day. The pesticides, that's what they use in the fields, and they might kill the bad insects or even the plants, but they also kill the good insects too. And this is one I think you predicted earlier there, and it's changes in the weather. As it gets warmer and warmer, it disrupts the blooming cycle. And you know that monarchs need things to happen at certain times. They have their lifetime so that they can get to when the milkweed is in bloom and do their migration. And as things get warmer and the plants are disrupted, the cycles don't work the way they used to. So what can you do to help? Well, you can be kind to pollinators. You can give them food by planting the kind of flowers that they like that taste good. You can give them safe places. You cannot swat them and kill them. Don't be afraid of bees. They're not aggressive. They really are out there just doing their own thing. They just want to eat or take care of their babies. They don't really care about us. So if we don't bother their nests and don't hurt them, they won't hurt us either. We can plant the flowers that they like. Native plants are good, especially for the nectar that they need. In the fall, we can leave the leaves in our gardens because they lay their eggs in the leaves, or they nest underground underneath the leaves, and some of them nest over the winter time. And then we can not use pesticides if we can help it. And we can also tell our friends how important it is as well. So, I hope you learned a little something that you didn't know about pollinators today, or maybe you remembered something that you knew before. Do you have any questions about pollinators? Okay. Guess we got to them as we went along. What's next is we have Linda that's going to talk with us just a little bit about the second kind of bees that she knows a lot about, and that is honeybees. Shelley's going to help us with excellent.
Thank you, Miss Bethany.
You're welcome.
That's lovely. It's love the touch team. Touch screen.
All right.
All righty. I'm going to talk about one type of pollinator, and as we talk about how important they are. My grandfather was a beekeeper, and my son is a beekeeper, so we have a lot of history of bees in my family. We talked about already that they're important for pollination and what pollination is, and we talked about examples: butterflies, bees, flies, wasps, birds, bats, and other mammals. We talked about that already. And we also talked about all the food that relies on pollinators. And we've got vanilla up there and coffee and even onions. Anybody like onions in here? No? Okay. So they're important for that too. All right. So there's 400 types of bees in Virginia. There's a honeybee, but there's 399 other types of bees in here. The three main are the honeybees, which we talked about, the bumblebees, and the solitary bees. Miss Bethany talked about the solitary bees a little bit. Honeybees are pretty much what I'm going to talk about today because that's the one I'm most familiar with. Wasps, which we see all the time, we call them bees. They're not bees. They're totally different. They are good pollinators, but they're definitely not honeybees. Anybody know the big difference between a wasp and a honeybee? What do you think? Go ahead.
Sometimes wasps attack the bees.
They could, exactly.
They attack them as well.
Good. Go ahead.
Bees lose their stinger and die from that.
You're exactly right. Bees can only sting you once and they die. Wasps can sting you multiple times. So that's kind of a big difference. So. All righty. And we talked again about their important pollinators. A couple of things, as Miss Bethany said, they see ultraviolet, they can't see red. Each hive has 50,000 bees. That's a lot of bees. They don't want to sting you. They only do it really as a defense mechanism. And each in their life, they only make a quarter or an eighth of a teaspoon of honey. So like, and I've got some honey for you to try. So a little bit of a spoon, each bee, it's all it makes this whole entire life.
Wow.
All right. This is my grandson's picture. So for each jar of honey, like this, maybe a little bigger than one, each hive has to visit 2 million flowers. And they travel 50,000 miles, which, not each bee, all together, but a typical bee can fly 3 miles. From your house or from the hive to 3 miles, well, a mile and a half there and a mile and a half back. And that's a lot of miles. They can fly 15 to 20 miles an hour. So that's kind of like driving to a Kilmarnock, about that speed, which is pretty fast. This is the queen. You can notice that she's a little bigger. She's got a longer body. And then these are the,
Just go ahead, tap it again. There you go.
These are the worker bees. And so, and I'll give an example of a hive that I'm in, but you can see she's much bigger. And I actually got to take that, put my face right in the middle of the hive and got to take that picture, which I like.
Oh.
They also, the queens live 5 to 6 years. The drones, which are the male bees, they die every fall. And the worker bees, they only live 35 days, so just like a month, and then they're gone. A cool thing about the front of the hive, and I noticed this year, they all crowd around the front of it, and where they're fanning and making air conditioning for the inside of the hive. So it's kind of, they all work together as a team. And then I'll show you this later on, but you start, this is called a frame, and it starts out with these little wires in it, and the bees create all these little hexagonal little cells. And then they fill it with honey, or they fill it with eggs. A couple years ago, we took 4 of these frames, 5 of these frames, and we made almost 5 gallons of honey. So this is really light because it's barely full, but they're really, really heavy when they're full of honey. Okay, let's see here. And each little cell in there is a hexagon, perfect hexagon. And then these are the bees, and they are working and filling all those little cells with honey. And what they do is when you're done, they take this frame, and it's all got all this kind of like a waxy coating on here, and you take like an electric knife, and you shave off just the outside, and you put it in a big metal tube, and you spin it, and all the honey flies out. And it's as clear as could be. It doesn't really take any straining, which is kind of cool. All right, let's see. Bees can live in hives, and they can also live in trees. My son got a call from somebody. There was a bee living in their porch, and they had to come take the boards off the porch and then capture all the bees and take them. Sometimes they swarm, which means they aren't real happy with their tree or their hive. Maybe got too crowded, and they swarm and fly away. And sometimes you can catch them. I think that's kind of mine. I got a couple of questions. The queen never leaves the hive unless she decides to swarm. She's very unhappy. The whole hive, all the bees in the hive will leave. And we already talked about the fact that the bees, once the bee stings you, it dies. So how do you work around bees? So bees are afraid of smoke. A lot of animals in the forest are afraid of smoke. So what you do is you take this little device, you put some leaves in here, and then you light it, and then it's got a little bellows, and it puffs out smoke. So my son will take his bee hat, he'll put his bee hat on, which I'm gonna put on, which is kind of silly looking, but I'm gonna put it on. And he puts his bee hat on, he ties the strings real tight around his neck. Oh, don't keep going higher. And then he smokes his hands. He can do it with his shorts, so he smokes his hands and his feet. The bees won't bite him off. And this way, the bees can't get it to your face. And that's all it takes. Now, some beekeepers have a whole entire, you saw the picture of my grandson, he has a whole entire bee suit. But you don't really need that, which is kind of cool. So I have brought some honey. Does anybody want a taste of honey? What I'll do is, does anybody have any questions about bees? Yes, ma'am.
I do. So the drones and the worker bees, those are 2 different, like, can you physically tell them apart?
I can't, but my son could. And you can see in the cells of the hive that has the eggs, and you can tell what are queen eggs, and what will turn into queens. If the queen dies, then they activate another queen, which is kind of neat. The drones are the males, and like I said, they're only purpose of life is to gather pollen and, drones are to serve the queen. They just take care of the queen, and they die every fall. The worker bees are the ones that fly away for miles and get the pollen and bring it back. And in the meantime, they're pollinating all those flowers. So it's a dual purpose. It makes honey for us, and it pollinates your cantaloupe and all the other fruits and vegetables we rely on for pollination. So, and the workers only last 35 days, and then they're gone. So.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I forgot this. Do the bees eat the honey or the?
They take the pollen and make honey for us. I think they eat probably some of the honey as well, because I know that every fall my son harvest the honey, they'll take the comb and take a, like I said, shave off the outside edge and then spin it. But he does leave some honey for the bees to eat during the winter. And we've had a couple bad winters. This winter wasn't as bad, but a couple winters ago, a lot of beekeepers lost hives. They just died. They just never came back, and they were all dead inside there. So, so I won't pass it much. I can pass it around to hold it by this. Otherwise, it's a little sticky. So you can hold this by the plastic and look at it, and those are the cells that the bees will fill out. And then I will walk around and anybody wants to taste honey? This is honey right from our backyard. No, here. I'll just pour it in the spoon. And I'll give him the spoon. I'll pour it in the liquid.
Okay.
Would you like a little bit of honey?
Okay.
It's very sweet. Change your mind and let me know. It's just
Oh, yeah, why not? See if it tastes
and my
any
husband
different.
puts honey in his coffee instead of,
That's what my husband does.
yeah, instead of sugar, so.
I like it in tea, but I've never tried it in coffee.
Every place you go, the honey tastes a little different. It depends on where the bees are getting their pollen from.
What kind of flowers do you send out here in his?
You know, we actually don't know. They actually get a lot from pollinators. They get a lot of pollen. But I wish I had more flowers in my garden. I'm working on it. Anybody else want to? No? Okay. I'm gonna turn it over to Miss Bethany now. Anybody else?
Everybody know who wanted to try it? What do you think? You like it? Yeah? And you all got to see the honeycomb?
Yeah.
We have, we have some fun things for you to do now. Sure. We brought a couple of activities, and we're going to get a chance to make your own pollinator, and then you're gonna get a chance to make a bee buzzer and learn a little bit about how what makes bees buzz. So, if you would like to go back to the tables there, we'll bring you some supplies, and we're gonna explain to you what we're gonna